is for that which is good and for that which is life. Yeah. Because God is for that which is good and that which is life, He's for you and I. Do we understand? He is for us, not against us. If we find that God seems to be against us, maybe it's because we are working against Him and not in agreement with Him. So, what was it? Just the other day would have been, we considered Wednesday, Susanna, Catherine, life words for now and your future. So, life words. So, I wanted to look at some of the words of Jesus Christ. What I found out that as I was thinking about and all, there was a lot of life words that he spoke. And good morning and hello and blessings, afternoon, wherever you are. But there was a lot of life words he spoke. So I'm going to focus on just a couple this morning, and really one in particular, because it's singularly, I almost said that right, significant of how Jesus Christ spoke into situations and brought change. Now, from Genesis, we know that God told to Adam and Eve, right? Early Adam, however he said his plan was, what he spoke over them was to be fruitful and multiply. It wasn't just to multiply, but it was to be fruitful. And so this is why I'm saying God is for increase, fruitfulness, and multiplication, growth. These are things God is for. So, and everything that God did in the beginning was good. He saw that it was good, not only good, but he says very good. So now we know that when there is decrease, there's loss, it's against God. Failure, whatever. Now, there's a song by Jesus Culture that's called I Need You More. And I want to read the chorus to you. I Need You More by Jesus Culture. So, yes. So that means he's for, because you're saying that, you're typing that in, that God is for our increase and God is for our fruitfulness always. Whatever works against fruitfulness increase in your personal life, in your business, in understanding, your personal growth with him and just in life, if it's working against that, it's working against what he planned. Okay, this song, I Need You More by Jesus Culture, this is part of the chorus. Where is the chorus? I need you more than yesterday. I need you more than words can say. I need you more than ever before. I need you, Lord. I need you, Lord. Now, I think the realization is we always need to walk and increase ourselves with God, more of God. But the realization comes as we're walking with him, there is more than we want to know more, live more, walk in more. Okay, so I need you more than yesterday. I need you more than words can say. I need you more than ever before. I need you, Lord. I need you, Lord. Now we know, so we're looking at some things that are familiar, but I hope to give a little different insight or angle or way for you to think about them as we look at these. James 1:17 tells us what? What does James 1, chapter 1, verse 17 tell us? Well, it tells us some good things, right? So let me go there, because I'm not there. I'm going to see if I can pull it here. I'm going to pull it up here. So, this should be the every good gift, every perfect gift. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, let me go there so that, we'll do this. Make it just slightly faster. Okay. Oops. Hit the wrong button or something. So James, so I'm going to look at this, 1:17. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from somewhere, from above. If it was from beneath, we'd say it was from the earth, but it's from above, coming down from the Father of lights, from above, coming down, with whom there is no variation or shadow of due to change. He doesn't change. I am the Lord, I change not. So every good gift, every perfect gift comes from God. So that's what I'm talking about. Fruitfulness and increase are for you. For me too. They're for us because it's God's plan for us to have these things. All right. Now that we've established that God's for increase, God's for fruitfulness, He's for increase, we want to look at some things Jesus said and did that were actually against good increase, fruitfulness. So we're looking at things, how Jesus responded where it was against, right? Okay. So he's in the beginning, he saw everything he had made, and it was good, even very good. We've said this. He spoke to man that his plan for man was to be fruitful and multiply. So anything that is against fruitfulness or increase and growth is against God. So with this, we're setting the stage for some things Jesus said and did. And there's so many of them we could look at, but I'm looking at two that are very familiar to us. So we're in Matthew chapter 8, verse 23. We're going through 27, 8:23 to 27. When he got in the boat, he didn't float over the boat. He got in the boat. He stepped in. His disciples followed him, and behold, there arose a great storm on the sea. So the boat was being swamped by the waves, and he was asleep. Now, they weren't at the shore. They got in the boat. You think, well, they're still docked at the shore. No, there's a lot not covered here. They went out to the sea. They were fellowshipping. Jesus Christ wasn't like, man, I got to get in that boat again. No, that's not how I want to put it. It's like, yeah, I got some really spiritual things to do. I ain't got time to hang out with you in this boat. No, he gets in the boat and he's hanging out with his disciples. And you know what? He must have thought, I'm just going to get a good nap here because I can be away from the crowd. So often when he got away from the crowd, it was time to pray and be with his Father. I've got an explorer back there, it appears. All right. So, and behold, there was a great storm on the sea. When the Bible says great storm, do we realize it's not a little storm? And the boat was being swamped by the waves, and he was asleep. And they went and woke him, saying, Lord, save us, or save us, Lord. We are what? Perishing. Oh my gosh. So perishing is against increase. Perishing is against fruitfulness. Perishing is against growth. Do we understand that? These are things not in that God said was good and very good. So they woke him. They did this. And he said, what's your problem? He said, why are you so afraid? Why are you afraid? Oh, you of little faith. Old King James, that ye. Oh, ye of little faith. Oh, you of little faith. So first, he's asking them here, why are you so full of unbelieving? Little faith. Really, little faith. He doesn't say unbelieving, little faith. Because he's telling them they have an authority in this situation that they're not operating. We should get that. He knows they have access to something they don't realize they have access to. So he said, why are you afraid, O you of little faith? Then he rose, rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, what sort of man is this that even the winds and sea obey him? They had the opportunity to do something. They had been around Christ. They had seen mighty works. But they were not in a position thinking they had authority against that which was against fruitfulness, increase, and that which is good. Jesus Christ knew what the situation was like He knew exactly what it was like. But he wasn't walking by what he saw, but only what he knew he had in relationship with his Father in faith to access to, in believing to access to. So he speaks. He speaks to the winds and the sea. He rebukes them. Waves, you stop it. Wind, you become calm. Peace be still, right? And there was a great calm, and the men marveled. So it doesn't say in every storm that Jesus Christ rebuked it. But we have an indicator then when that storm was affecting what was going on, and it was against increase, it was against fruitfulness, it was against life, he spoke up in those situations. Do we understand that? So we should be speaking up in those things. There. Oh, my father-in-law said, hey, I need to wear a sweater sometime. So there you go. Pop, there's your sweater, okay? It's getting a little cooler out, but it's still nice out. Now, just remember as we work through this, God is for good, God is for life. This storm was not for good or life. So when we are individually involved in situations that are against these things, that which is good, that which is life, that which is increase, we need to stand up and speak out in faith. I had a good friend, Mary Matney, who was actually on a trip to Jerusalem, and they were out like on the Sea of Galilee, the same lake, whatever the lake was. I don't remember if Capernaum, Galilee, what, but they were on the same lake, and they got in a situation very similar to this, where a great storm seemed to come out of nowhere, and even the captain, the people were now not outside the boat, but huddled in the middle protective area, and even the captain was concerned that they would be swamped. They were going to be tipped over, sank. Now Mary, she was one of the most bold people I know. And you know what? She went out and she said, wind, you stop. Waves, you stop. She commanded them to stop. And in that moment, the same thing happened for her. There was a great calm. Why? Because she spoke out in faith. And somewhere in her heart, she knew these things were against God's plan. Increase, fruitfulness, and that which is good. All right. Now, the one I really want to look at and I want to hone in on is Mark 11, 12 through 14, and it's also 20 through 25. So Mark 11, 12 through 14. On the following day, when they came to Bethany, he was hungry. We knew two things. We know that they came to Bethany and that Jesus was hungry. Do we recognize that? Very clear. And seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, so it's alive, it's got leaves, right? He went to it to see if he could find anything on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for the season was not the season for figs. It wasn't harvest time for the figs. And he said, may no one eat fruit from you again. And his disciples heard it. You know that Jesus, they're thinking, he's a little wacko at times. He's a little crazy. Now, he spoke to wind and waves, but now he's speaking to trees. What are we going to do with this Jesus? Now, do you think Jesus was that ignorant? That's stupid. I'm going to tell you, of all men that ever lived, he was the wisest and most understanding of any that lived, and truly of all that was going on, and God's heart for the situation. So he saw this fig tree, and he found nothing but leaves. Now, it was not the season for figs. Yeah, your figs are getting right. I like it. It was not the season for figs. Do you think, when do apples ripen? Come on, right? Like October. I don't know, maybe later September, October, November. Those are at least in the north here, those are apple seasons. I've known that since I was a kid, that the season for apples, ripe apples, is in late fall. Got it. Simple. Do you think Jesus grew up and had no idea I'm telling you, he knew it was not the time for figs. But on fig trees, what we don't know is that fig trees, before the mature, ripe figs are produced, there'll be little buds on the tree. And those little buds were sweet or are sweet like candy, and you can eat the buds. It isn't a mature fig, but it's the buds and you can eat them. So he goes to this tree. He knows it's not the time for figs, but he found only leaves. There was none of these buds on it that would be tasty, and he could have his little snack because he was hungry. So what does he do? He recognizes this tree is not going to be fruitful. It's not going to have increase. It's not going to produce what it was designed to do. God's for fruitfulness, Jesus Christ, is in agreement with God for fruitfulness. So you never ate the buds. Well, you have to tell us sometime, Catherine, how the buds are. You're going to have to do that. So may no one eat fruit from you again. In the King James, hereafter, it says, no man eat fruit from you from now, hereafter. I'm not stating it exactly right, but anyway. His disciples heard it. Now in Mark 11:20, we read this. And as they passed by in the morning, they saw the fig tree withered away at its roots. To its roots they have, whatever. And Peter remembered, so Peter's not a dummy. He remembered what happened. Yeah, because they were thinking about, he's talking to fig trees now, and they leave it, and they're looking back as they leave it, and they go, I wonder if those words have any power. And Peter remembered and said to him, Rabbi, Master, Teacher, the fig tree which you have cursed has withered. Jesus answered them and said, have faith in God. Now, those of us that have looked at this, there's two ways you can look at it. Have faith in God or have the faith God has. So whatever way you look at it, have trust in God that he's working in you, believing, faith, confidence, and have faith like God has. Speak and act like God would speak in these circumstances. So have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, remember that we looked at this Wednesday. Whoever says to the mountain, be cast into the sea, be taken down and thrown in the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Interesting. Most people put prayer for the conversation they have with God, but often not expecting results. Jesus is his conversations with him produce results. Why? Because he's speaking forth in faith. Yeah, or packs them up and ship them to me, Catherine, some of those buds. All right. Jesus Christ, equivalent of prayer, is speaking in agreement with God. And the fig tree, he spoke, no man eat fruit of you here from now on, right? Because he knew it would not produce fruit. Now, do you remember there's an account in the Bible? There's an account in the Bible that the husbandman, the farmer guy, he wants to cut down a tree because it's unfruitful. And the guy goes, one of the servants or whatever, he goes, let me dig around it, let me fertilize it, let's give it another season or two and see if we can get it to produce. God is very patient and long-suffering to see fruitfulness in people's lives. And it's been said that this was an example of what was happening with Israel. They were being cut off because they were not what? Choosing to live by faith. But and the fig tree was considered the people's tree in Israel, in that land, times of the Bible. If I had a fig tree in my yard and it had figs, buds, whatever, you could come by and you could snack on it because it was the people's tree. Now, this next record, or I want to say where we're at, as they saw this fig tree, they saw the fig tree returning to the city. No, I haven't got it right. Give me a second. I'll be there. I'll catch up where my brain's going. Okay. Now we're in Matthew 21. That's where I'm going. This is another record. There was 2 records written of fig trees. Not one. One they found withered the day after. This one they find the same day or at the same time. In the morning, this is Matthew 21:18 through 22. In the morning he was returning to the city, he became hungry. And seeing a fig tree by the wayside, wasn't in the path, it was off to the side, the wayside, not in the way I'm going, right? He was going. He went to it and found nothing on it but only leaves. Oh my gosh, it's happening again. This is the second account. And he said to it, may no one eat fruit ever from you again. And actually, the way they have it in ESV, may no fruit ever come to you again. He's not telling God to do something. He's speaking to that tree. He's speaking to the circumstance and circumstances in his life. What are we speaking to the circumstances in our life? Whoever says unto this mountain, be removed, and doesn't doubt, but believes, they what? Going to receive. But we don't see that Jesus Christ spoke to every tree. We don't see he spoke to every storm. But look, when there was lack at the wedding, what came forth but fruitfulness? Because everything against fruitfulness, God is against. So with things that are against fruitfulness in your life, increase, God is against an agreement for you to have. You've got to start talking to your fig tree. I never talk to my fig tree. It's been waiting for you to come out and preach to it. Remember that? Okay. So what happens? He said this, may no man eat fruit of you from you again. And the fig tree withered at once. One record, the next day they come by and see it. This one at that very moment. Today they would use special effects. Jesus needed no special effects to produce this. When the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, how the fig tree did wither at once. We can't figure it out. I've never seen anything like this. And Jesus answered them, truly I say to you, what? He's back to his account about teaching faith. If you have faith and do not doubt, you'll not only do what has been done to the fig tree, but even say to this mountain, there it is, be taken up and thrown in the sea, and it will happen. Whatever you ask in prayer, you'll receive if you have faith. So Jesus Christ equates what he's speaking in faith as equivalent to prayer. We too often in churchianity, we think of prayer as begging. God, will you do this? Will you do that? No, at the wedding, he had increase. With Lazarus, there was increase, fruitfulness, life came forth. When the people came collecting a coin or whatever, a tax, he said, go out and catch a fish. He always spoke supply, increase, and he wasn't praying, God, help me in this matter. Now, we know with Lazarus, he thanked God that his father, our father, and that he always heard him. And what was in the heart of Jesus Christ? That he would get up from the dead, because he said, I am the resurrection and life, right? Well, he lives within you and I. So Jesus equates prayer with speaking in faith to circumstances. We find all that is fruitful and brings increase in a good way is already God's plan. When you find things are working against increase, against fruitfulness, against that which is good, it's time to start speaking to circumstances in your life. So anything that is against fruitfulness or increase and that which is good, God is in opposition to, and Jesus Christ is in agreement, and we see this in him. I want to share, God is for Genesis, what we're talking about, fruitful and multiply. I never have had so many requests for women with barren wombs as I did in my trip to Pakistan a year and a half ago. Jeez, a year and a half ago. And the report, and I'm telling you, I didn't get heavy. I didn't get spiritual. I just spoke to the circumstances. And mostly what I spoke was, according to the time of life, you will have a child. In 9 months, 8 months, 9 months, you're going to have a child. It was that simple. I didn't beg. I didn't whatever. I spoke to the circumstances that were against fruitfulness and increase. And you know what happened? Oh, 9 months or so later, I was getting messages and calls from Pakistan that the people wanted to tell me that they had a child. They'd been trying for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, more years, barren. And just speaking to the circumstances, life came forth because God is for life and God is for fruitfulness. Okay, so Susanna's asked a question. Let's see. So if I lost everything after I had plenty, I'm not in the will of God. Yes, that's a good question. And I have the answer, but I'm trying to figure how I want to say this. God is always for fruitfulness and increase. If you've had loss, I've had loss. I've had loss where I've lost thousands of dollars. Yeah, I'd like to have that which I lost. I had a business that I had a lot more than thousands in. And that business failed. And I lost everything. And my dad was in with me on it, and everything that he had helped invest in it, we lost. But I'm going to tell you what, I didn't know these things then. There was things I knew about God and His Word, but there's things I didn't know. Over the years, I've always seen God is working together for good and Him to restore fruitfulness and increase to my life, whether it's through others, whether it's through business, whatever. I've always seen God bring restoration. Maybe mine wasn't like the fig tree or that storm. There was an instant change. But I saw over time that God was working for good, and He brought it. So if I lost everything, I'm not in the will of God. Well, the will of God is simply this: your increase, that you're fruitful, and that you have more. And that's what He's working. So what we're doing is connecting, even reconnecting with Him in faith to receive and walk in what He has. So the promise is that which an enemy has taken, a thief in the Old Testament, is to be restored sevenfold. So you should at least be declaring a sevenfold increase in your life. But the scriptures also tell that it's like, not only now, when He told Peter, ask this, Lord, we've given up everything, our lands, our houses, all this stuff, our cars, our chariots, whatever, our fax machines, I don't know. What about us? And He says that even now in this time, that there would be increase, and in the life to come, eternal life. So we know, because here's the thing. Who's the person, was it Billy Joel? I'd rather laugh with the sinners and cry with the saints. Something like that. Well, the saints shouldn't be crying because we should see increase. Now, did bad things happen to people like the Apostle Paul? Did people through the Old Testament and the New have bad things happen to him? So they had similar things like happened to us, but sometimes we read much worse things. So God is working for good, and Jesus Christ is making intercession for us for that good. You find those in Romans 8. So we should be expecting good, and we should be speaking to our circumstances to change. Look, if you're expecting the government to give you a handout, if you're trusting in Social Security, I'm not saying having Social Security is bad or anything of those things. If you're trusting, wait until the Social Security comes. If you're waiting for the government to give you another handout or whatever, that's not in faith, because that's just what the world offers. So, Susanna, we're speaking in circumstances of life that increase will come, fruitfulness will come, but we got to do our part. What's it talk about business? A person that's in business, he that's not slothful in business and puts his hands to good use will see increase. So we have a part to do. And I know people that hear some of these broadcasts or these sharings who have gotten to me that have been in dire straits. And maybe it wasn't a week later, a month later, maybe it was a year or two later, they saw increase. They started a business, they did something, and they stuck to it, and they've seen increase and supply come. So we're in the battle for faith because the battle's in the mind. Because you're battling, it's easy to have unbelief. The fight is for faith. And that's why it's called the good fight of faith. And that's why God is working for good, because have faith in God. I'm speaking and agreeing how he speaks to me. And I have found in my small little business I'm doing, my online marketing sales business, which is a drop in a bucket, but I have found if my business doesn't supply it, God sends someone with a little something to help out, whatever it may be. What a blessing that is. And God will increase it to them. And I thank him for that. But I've seen that when things get really tough, he always is there and comes through. But what I really want to say is I found when I have a continual expectation of good coming my way, and so, because I have the favor of God in my life. We talked about this Wednesday, could have been Monday, but Wednesday, with Mary and her having the child, Jesus Christ, and we have the same favor when the angel spoke favor over her. You are highly favored. Ephesians 1, I should have looked it up, had it today for you, tells us the same thing. It's worded different, but in the Greek, it's the exact same words where God says to you and I, you are highly favored. So you know what? I'm a magnet. Here's the way I want you to think, you and I to think. You are a magnet, and I am a magnet for heaven's resources. I am drawing to myself heaven's good, and good is going to come my way. And I find when my attitude is like that, it's like rivers start flowing to me. Okay? So expect rivers of goodness, abundance, whatever it is needed to flow to you. So have that expectation for good, but also speak to circumstances to change. When it's against fruitfulness and it's a good increase, against increase, speak against it. So these fruitful wombs in Pakistan had all these calls and really messages, and people reach out. The people want to tell they had a child. I don't know if it was a dozen or what, but it was quite a few that did not have fruitfulness in their wombs, but saw increase. So let's know today, we're anchored. I like that there. We're anchored in God's truth. We're going to speak to circumstances in faith because I'm speaking in agreement with God, like Jesus spoke, his son, our brother. And God is for that which is good and for that which is life. So when we learn some of the things Jesus spoke, let's start speaking to our circumstances and let's speak change. And I'll mention this again. It's the George Mueller in his diary has like 25,000 something prayers. And he basically says, every prayer I asked was answered. Jesus said, you have not because you ask not. We're sitting here waiting for God to do. And he says, well, you aren't asking and you aren't speaking to your circumstances. Whoever shall say unto that mountain, be removed, and shall not doubt, but ask in faith, shall have whatsoever he says. So start speaking to your circumstances. No, I'm not asking for Trump's wealth or the Berkshire guy owns Berkshire, runs Berkshire Hathaway. I'm not asking for their wealth. I'm just asking, thank you that you've promised to meet my need, and I have extra so we can do to give, to bless, to help others. Because to have enough that all my need is met, that's not good enough. I want to have enough that I can be a blessing and overflow those blessings to others. And that's God's plan for fruitfulness, for increase, and for good in our lives. Thanks, Alice. Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett is that guy. And you got the PC mogul, or whatever you'd call him. And that would be Gates, Bill Gates. So I don't need their income because I walk in the extreme favor of God. I am highly favored, and he is working to meet every thing. Not only he promised to meet my need, but even those wants that I speak in faith to, I can have. Not so I just have, but so I can give to others so that they also have. So let's speak like Jesus Christ. And because God is for that which is good and that which is for life and increase and fruitfulness, things which are against it, start speaking fruitfulness and start planting for a harvest in those areas so that we are fully adequate, fully supplied, and have. Because Ephesians says, let him that stole steal no more, chapter 4, but rather let him labor that he may have to give to him that needeth. You know how you can labor? You can labor in the Word of God to share it with them, because that's people's true need. They need life words so they can have a life harvest. But it's also when I work, if my job only pays enough just for me, that's not God's plan. God is expecting that there will be a supply to give to others. It may not be a lot, but a little extra sometimes can make a great difference. So you and I, let's go make a difference. And I started with that at the beginning. I need you more, from the song Jesus Culture. More than yesterday. I need you more than words can say. I need you more than ever before. I need you, Lord. I need you, Lord. Yes. So speak to life circumstances, and the prayer you're asking, said Jerry. Hey, Jerry, the prayer you're asking that expect results, expect fruitfulness, expect increase, and expect that which is good to overflow to you so that people see God's goodness in your life. Okay. God bless you richly.